Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Perth East Council. We're sorry for the delay tonight. We had a meeting prior to this one. So I'd like to welcome everyone, call our meeting to order. If everyone could please bow their head for a moment of reflection. Thank you. We have before we start the meeting tonight, I want to have a couple introductions and welcome backs. We're welcoming back Kendra. She's been away for a little while, and welcome back and congratulations on your last child. And also we're going to welcome tonight Sarah Elliott. She is our new deputy clerk. Okay, confirmation of the agenda. I know we have a couple changes and I'll let Ashley do them.
Okay, thanks, Mayor Eggetts. So item number 5.1.1, which is the draft minutes from the October 1st council meeting, there's an amendment. Councillor McAlpine should have been marked as absent. And then item number 8.1.1, which is a consent application for 5432 Perth Road 119. A revised report has been distributed to council. There's a few changes to the recommended conditions.
Okay, so then we have a motion that the agenda as prepared for October 16, 2024 meeting of council of the Township of Perth East be approved as amended. Moved by Hugh, second by Bob, all in favor. Carried. Okay, if you have pecuniary interest, you can disclose that now or as the meeting goes along. We have 19 items on our consent agenda. Is there any item anyone would like pulled or they have questions on? Andrew?
Thank you, Mayor. The 5.1.12, please.
Okay, anyone else? Jerry?
Thanks, Mayor. It's 5.1.4, not necessarily have to pull, but just highlighting it for council's information there, the economic benefits of libraries, et cetera. So page P19 has a nice pie chart there with some of the benefits, just to highlight that for everyone's get a chance to look at that.
Okay, anyone else? Bob?
I'm not sure if you're dealing with this at County Council, but 5.1.11 regarding the transit funding.
Yeah, we did deal with that at county as well, but we can do it here too.
Yeah, I'll leave that up to you. I'm just not in the loop on whether the program's going to continue with more provincial funding or that'll run out, or if you're advocating for more or what, so.
Yeah, well, we're advocating for more if we can get it. And I think it will be part of the budget procedure what happens with our transportation. So we do have a meeting in November, the committee, the transportation committee, and then a recommendation will go to county council after that. So do you want it pulled or just that it's recognized? Okay, then we'll just recognize it because county did support it as well. Okay, anyone else? No? Okay, so then we will, Andrew?
May I speak to 5.1.12?
Do you want it separate or you want to just ask a question and then we'll?
Yeah, no, I think I'd like support.
You want it separate? Okay. Okay, so then we have a motion that items 5.1.1 to 5.1.19 is set out in consent agenda for October 16, 2024, regular meeting of council be received for information with the exception of 5.1.2, which shall be introduced separately, and the minutes of October 8, 2024, Perth East Public Library Board, PEPLB meeting, and the October...
Sorry, because that's what Andrew's pulled. So we haven't received those yet.
Okay, scrap that part about the Perth East Library Board then. We just have October 7, 2024, Perth East Youth Action Council meeting be received for information, and the minutes of October 1, 2024 regular meeting be adopted as amended. And I took the library one out because that's the one that Andrew asked to speak to.
Sorry, 5.1.12.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's my mistake.
I had that, yeah, it was 12.
12, sorry. Sorry about that. Okay, we will start again.
So yeah, that will go back in there then.
Yeah.
I have that missing.
Okay, so we're pulling out 5.1.12, and then we're adopting the minutes from the Library Board and the Perth East Youth Council and the regular meeting of council as amended. Okay, do we have a move by Jeremy, second by Jerry, all in favor? Carried. Okay, Andrew, 12. Sorry.
No, that's quite all right. Thank you, Mary Getz. No, this is a pretty important thing, and with all the proposed growth and everything, I was wondering if council would be interested in supporting this very important thing. It's kind of, we've done a little bit with infrastructure funding and letters to the province and circulating that. I think this is part of that, although it's out of our jurisdiction. I think it's worth noting and worth supporting. So I would move we support this.
Okay, so moved by Andrew to support. Do we have a seconder? Amanda, any questions? All in favor? Carried. Okay, we'll move to presentations. We have no public presentations, no other presentations. We have no public meetings. We do have a public hearing. My preamble.
Oh, we don't have your preamble in here. Sorry.
Just give us a second. You want me to read that?
You can speak now.
Okay, council will now temporarily adjourn to sit as Committee of Adjustment pursuant to Section 45 of the Planning Act. I now declare this public hearing open. This public hearing is being held to consider an application affecting property currently owned by Michael Hall and described as Part Lot 33, Plan 363, Milverton Ward, 25 Main Street, South Milverton. The purpose of this hearing is to give the committee and the public an opportunity to hear all interested persons with respect to the proposed application and receive their input, and for the committee to make a decision on the application. All persons attending the hearing will be given an opportunity to be heard or make a presentation. Committee members may ask questions for the purposes of clarifying the application, but are asked to withhold comments on this application until all present have been given an opportunity to be heard. Any person who wishes to receive written notice of the decision made by the Committee of Adjustment is asked to email their name and mailing address to the Secretary-Treasurer at this time. An appeal to the Ontario Land Tribunal objecting to the decision made at this hearing may be filed by the applicant, the municipality, the minister, prescribed utility providers with the Secretary-Treasurer no later than November 5th, 2024. No written notice, except as previously noted, will be given unless requested at this time. I will now call on our planner, Jeff, to present the planning report and recommendations. And Jeff is joining us on the screen tonight, so welcome, Jeff, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor Greggins. The minor variance application A11-2024 was submitted by Michael Hall for the property at 25 Main Street South in Milverton. Next slide, please. So the owner is proposing to construct an accessory building with an additional residential unit in the rear yard of the subject lands. They are asking for relief from the Perth East zoning bylaw to increase the maximum building height for an accessory building from 4.5 meters to 4.9 meters, and to increase the maximum lot coverage for that building from 5% of the lot coverage to 10%. Subject lands are approximately 726 square meters in area. They have a frontage of about 12 meters on Main Street South, and they contain a single detached dwelling, which presently has municipal services. The applicant is proposing to construct an accessory structure that will be used for personal storage on the ground floor and contain an additional dwelling unit on the upper floor. Next slide, please. Property is designated as serviced urban area in the County of Perth official plan. That plan permits a variety of land uses, including residential dwellings. It also allows for secondary dwelling units to be located in the serviced urban area, both within the primary dwelling or within a separate structure that is accessory to the dwelling. The second dwelling unit is required to satisfy criteria, including requirements for being clearly accessory to the primary dwelling, and that services are provided for the new dwelling unit. It is also designated as central commercial in the Milverton official plan. Principal goal of that designation is to promote a level and range of commercial facilities to service the residents of the village and the surrounding agricultural community to ensure that future development is compatible with existing commercial development. Residential uses may be permitted above or to the rear of commercial establishments are intended to be secondary to the principal commercial uses. So of note here is the Planning Act states that an official plan cannot contain a policy that prohibits the construction of a residential unit in a building or accessory structure to a detached house on a parcel of urban residential land if the detached house contains not more than 2 residential units. So in this case, the detached house is a single detached dwelling. So the official plan, either the Milverton official plan or the County of Perth official plan, cannot contain policies that prohibit that additional dwelling unit. 1 parking space is also to be provided for the secondary dwelling unit. The new accessory building is located in the rear of the property and outside of the exterior side yard setback. The proposed building will, with requested increase in the lot coverage and building height of the structure, will support the mix of dwellings and structures in the area and will allow for a building property that is compatible with the surrounding properties. Property zoned, commercial zone C1, an accessory building is a permitted use, and the zoning bylaw includes requirements for accessory buildings on properties. The secondary dwelling units are permitted in settlement areas within an accessory building, provided they meet the location and size requirements of the zoning bylaw, that the total floor area is less than the primary dwelling. It has to be less than 125 square meters, and the secondary dwelling has to be located within 45 meters of the main dwelling. Regulations also require that dwelling units are located in an agricultural, hamlet, village residential, or in a residential zone. So the proposed development is able to meet all of those requirements for a secondary dwelling, with the exception of the required zone. The C1 zone allows for an existing residential dwelling, and the subject lands are considered to represent a parcel of urban residential land. So again, the Planning Act policies allow for the proposed land use, even though there currently is a zoning land use restriction in the Perth East zoning bylaw. Maximum lot coverage of 5% for accessory dwellings is intended in part to ensure that the accessory structures remain secondary to the main dwelling and that proper grading and drainage can be controlled. Maximum building height is intended to ensure that the building is compatible with properties in the neighborhood and the privacy of the adjacent properties is being maintained. So the proposed minor variance is to allow for the increased lot coverage and building heights, appropriate development as the accessory structure is set back sufficiently from the lot lines to minimize impacts on the adjacent properties. And the requested increased lot coverage does not have a negative impact on the neighboring lands. Next slide, please. The applicant is able to meet all other zoning requirements within the proposed development, including setbacks from all lot lines. The owner is able to provide for an adequate amount of amenity space in the rear yard, and proper drainage can still be maintained with the proposed size of the structure. Parking is able to be provided for the existing dwelling and the secondary dwelling unit, and the proposed minor variance is considered to be minor in nature and appropriate for the site. Application for minor variance conforms with the official plan policies and maintains the general intent and purpose of the official plan and the zoning bylaw. In our opinion, it is minor and desirable for the use of the land, and as a result, approval for the minor variance is being recommended. I'm available to answer any questions.
Okay, thanks, Jeff. Is there anyone present who wishes to make a presentation or speak in opposition, speaking against? Seeing no one, is there anyone present who wishes to make a presentation or speak in support of the application other than the applicant or the applicant's agent? No? Would the applicant or the applicant's agent wish to speak?
Good evening, officials and councilors.
Could you give your name and address, please?
Certainly, yes. My name is Michael Hall. Address is 25 Main Street South in Milverton. And I've been a resident of Milverton for 18 years. And I appreciate the township staff's help in getting this project to council. I would have a lot to say, but I think the proposal was adequately put in front of council for the minor variances requested, and I will leave it to council and can answer any questions. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions from committee members? Jerry?
Just a quick one, it's probably a yes. The cedars that are surrounding it on the north side of the back proposal, I assume they're staying?
I would take them out,
They're going to be coming out?
yes.
Okay.
And reasoning potentially on that is to give more of a view around the corner of Cruikshank there. There was, in a pre-council meeting, there was some issues with sight lines and whatever. So my proposal would be to take them out and have better sight lines around the corner of Cruikshank.
Okay, other questions? No questions, and the committee will now consider a motion regarding the application. And the motion that we have is the Township of Perth East Committee of Adjustment approve application file D13-A11-2024-PE submitted by Michael Hall for lands described as Part Lot 33, Plan 363, Township of Perth East, municipally known as 25 Main Street South, as it relates to number 1, relief from section 5.1.3 to increase the maximum building height for an accessory building from 4.5 meters to 4.88 meters, and number 2, relief from section 5.1.3 to increase the maximum lot coverage for an accessory building from 5% to 9.98% to facilitate the construction of an accessory building with an additional residential unit subject to the following conditions, and the condition is that the owner obtain the necessary building permit within 2 years of the approval of the minor variance. Moved by Jerry, second by Amanda. All in favor? Carried. I now declare this public meeting closed. Public hearing closed.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, then we're going to go down to reports, and the first report that we have is an application for consent submitted by Menno Peters on behalf of Harlan and Michelle Martin, and Joshua is with us tonight. So Joshua, welcome. And the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everybody. Alrighty. Consent to sever application B42 2024 was submitted by MTE OLS on behalf of Menno Peters to sever a surplus farm dwelling from the lands municipally known as 5432 Road 119. The surplus farm dwelling severances are regulated by section 5.6.3.1 of the Perth County Official Plan. Section 5.6.3.1 provision D states that the new residential lot shall be limited to a minimum size. Planning staff are of the opinion that the proposed residential lot is not limited in size, as it includes more prime agricultural land than is required for the residential use. Provision D allows for windbreaks to be severed with a residential lot, provided that they are in close proximity. The northern windbreak, highlighted in red on these slides, which is proposed by the applicant to be severed with the residence, is situated 14.6 meters from the resident at its closest point. This has almost doubled the required setbacks as outlined in the Perth East zoning bylaw and results in an additional 0.23 hectares being severed than would otherwise be permitted. As the proposed severed parcel is already quite large at 1.39 hectares, staff are of the opinion that the proposed severed lot does not comply with provision D. As such, staff recommend that the staff modified sketch that reduces the size of the severed lot from 1.39 hectares to 1.16 hectares be given favorable consideration as it has minimized the residential lot in accordance with the requirements of the County Official Plan and the provincial policy statement. Staff received comments from Hydro One. They did not have any objections. Public notice of application was provided. No public comments were received. As a result of the above, planning staff are supportive of the staff modified subject application and recommend that the Perth East Council advise the Land Division Committee that it would support, that it supports application B42 2024 as modified and required through condition 12. I would be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Any questions of the report? Hugh?
Yeah, we got a modified report. What was the difference between the first report we got and the second report?
Yeah, the actual report, there were some errors in the conditions, primarily. There was a condition that referenced removing a barn from the retained parcel, and there is no barn on the retained parcel. Yeah, there's also some minor typos as well that were changed.
Okay, second question, the tree line, if you want that to stay with the farm, is the farmer going to be able to cut those trees down and actually farm that land?
We do believe that should Sunshade Farms Limited, who is going to be purchasing the land, wish to, they could cut the trees down and farm the land, yes.
Okay, you're sure?
I'm not sure, no.
Okay.
Okay, other questions, Andrew?
Thank you, Mary. So the barn mentioned in the report, isn't the structure at the southwest corner then? Looking at the map, it's hard to see on the report, the Google map.
Yeah.
There's a structure on the bottom left. Is that what's going to be demolished?
Yes, that structure is to be demolished, and then a new accessory dwelling is proposed to be built in its current place.
Okay, so that footprint will still go with the lot size?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Trevor, are you okay, or do you want to clarify?
I wouldn't mind to clarify if we could.
Okay, if you'd like to come up to the desk, please.
I do have Mr. and Mrs. Martin and Mr. Peters is here.
Oh, is it all right with all the members of council that we do this? Sorry, I didn't ask. Yep,
Okay,
good.
thank you.
Sorry.
So I just wanted to admit, yeah, there's, as Councilor McDermott alluded to, there's nothing to stop the farmer from cutting the trees down and getting rid of that windbreak. Now, currently, Mr. Peters isn't interested in doing that, but there's nothing to say that that can't change, being if the ownership was to change in the future for that. So even though Mr. Peters isn't intending on doing it, there's nothing to say down the road if he was to sell the farm someday that the new owner could come in and clear cut the trees if trees were on the farm property. As well, the barn that's sitting on there now is actually what's going to be on the severed house piece, so it's to be removed. That's the barn, I think, that you were alluding to that was erroneously mentioned to be on the retained land.
No, the original report mentioned 2 barns.
Oh, did it mention 2 barns? Oh, okay. Yeah.
Which was my mistake, and we rectified that. There is just 1 barn.
Yeah. So then we did have some negotiations with planning staff. I'm not sure which. I just had trouble reading it on the screen, whether that's the original one that was submitted, or whether that was
this one, that's the original one.
The original?
No, yeah.
So we did have discussions with Josh and planning staff about taking 20 feet off the south end, roughly 6 meters. And then that would kind of go in, it would go into where the barn's sitting right now a little bit. And then we tear the barn down, and then there's, the Martins are looking to put up a secondary suite for parents in that area as well. And then with the house, because it's hard to tell, you see it's sitting on an angle, even though it's not the rear yard by zoning definition, it's a side yard, it's actually the back of the house faces out on the trees. So if that line was to be moved over, so it was only 25 feet off the house, they'd have 25 feet out their patio door to the property line. So with keeping the trees and having that buffer, it would give them 50 to 60 foot physical rear yard, even though that's not the definition by zoning for that.
Okay, other questions? Amanda?
Just more of a comment, because I understand what staff's trying to do because we're trying to save farmland, but I am struggling with this because it's not currently, we would have to take trees down to do that, and then the property is not it's not square anymore. It just doesn't, I don't know, it just seems really strange to me. I appreciate the intent, but I'm more in favor of the original application. I know it's reducing because it's from 2 point whatever hectares to, can you just maybe go through that a bit? I just want to make sure I'm understanding it, because I'm just struggling with cutting down the trees when the current for a hypothetical situation down the road, like I'm just struggling with the benefit of it. I like appreciate the time, if you can maybe provide some more insight into that.
Yeah, just for point of clarification, the owners, the retained land would not be required to remove the trees. They could do so if they wish, but there's no condition in this report as it currently is to remove those trees. But the intention behind the revised sketch was to comply with provincial and county policy that requires that new residential lots created in an agricultural area be to a minimum size. So that was the intention behind that.
So what happens if hypothetically this council wants to go with the original?
Council does have the right to do that if they so wish.
Okay, thank you.
Jeremy?
This is more for Trevor. So the suggestion was made that we would go with the original sketch, but take 20 feet off the south as opposed to this angled thing on the north. Is that
Yes,
the preference of the applicant? So it differs from what we see in front of us. So in fact, that red line would go across the south, and that red line at the top that we see there would not exist. It would be flush with.
There'd be an even 20 feet taken off the full.
That's what you're suggesting in front of us now, as opposed to the staff report. What is the reasoning for the angle on that, as opposed to just chopping those trees out and putting it nice and, square? What's the reason for it to be at that sort of a?
That's the setback distance. So the reason it's on an angle, it's hard to make out, but there is a small accessory structure just to. I think it's technically the direct north, but it kind of looks northwest here. And so that line was taken from measuring a distance of 7.5 meters, which is the required setback from both those structures, and then just drawing through from the front to the back.
And you said you spoke with staff about the 20 feet off the south, and was staff okay with the 20 feet off the south as opposed to the north side? Or what was the planning department, what was your feeling on that?
Staff's opinion is that the proposed revision by the applicant was pretty minor and wasn't enough to satisfy the policy's requirement that the residential lot be minimal in size.
Thank you.
Other questions? Bob?
So I'm going to elaborate on what Amanda was getting at. And as a farmer, and I know planners aren't farmers, drive big equipment, creating corners like that isn't really going to help the farmer any, because it's a wasted area anyway, right? I appreciate you're trying to reduce the impact to agriculture, but you are using the word minimum, and I don't really see that that's logical when we're potentially going to get rid of some trees that we would all like to see saved. So, and given their close proximity to the house anyway, and if I assume they're spruce or pine trees, when they do fall, they're going to hit the house. So I do appreciate what you're trying to do. I would prefer that the existing sketch is probably more practical, just because not a lot of that's going to get farmed anywhere or preserved, right? Having said that, I am quite concerned that we are creating large lots in the countryside, and I have seen a radical change, including green space, ponds, throughout the last couple of years that never used to happen. And so if you truly wanted to make this minimal, as the requirement is in the document, we would ask probably the applicants to change some of the buildings that they have and condense the lot size. So I am glad to see the barns being removed and not converted, which is still in the proposal. So that still worries me, but regardless, one of the points is it's going to be demolished. So long story short, I do appreciate the intent to reduce the footprint, but I think if we truly were wanting to do that, we would find another way to do it. So in Mr. McNeil's proposal, I think that's a little bit better, but again, I'm still a little bit concerned with the amount of acreage that we're now considering minimal compared to earlier days when we just set a house, a septic, and a well. So I would probably prefer to see a new sketch that had the barn removed and the proposed layout to get this down in size, but that's not my job to do. That's just my preference.
Okay, other questions? No, then what does council wish to do? There is one condition, number 12, is where we reduce it in size. Want me to read them out and then we'll go from there? Okay.
This is what's been proposed in the revised.
Okay, so we have a motion that Township of Perth East Council advise the Land Division Committee or its delegated authority that the Township of Perth East supports application file D10-B42-2024-PE as modified by staff, submitted by MTE-OLS on behalf of Menno Peters for land described as Lot 1, Concession 15, Ellis Ward, municipality known as 5432 Perth Road 119, subject to the following conditions. And the first 7 conditions are Perth East conditions. So number 1, all taxes are paid in full. Number 2, all financial requirements have been met. Number 3, that the apportionment schedule for municipal drains in the area are reviewed and updated. Number 4, implementing zoning bylaw has been adopted to zone the proposed severed lot to permit only a dwelling and accessory uses, buildings, structures, and to zone the retained farm lot to prohibit any new permanent residential dwellings. 5, confirmation that the severed and retained farm lots have been assigned a municipal address and each lot contains a municipal address sign with the cost of any new signage required to be borne by the applicants. Number 6, that the subject lands the owners demolish the existing barn and silo on the subject lands to the satisfaction of the township. And number 7, the township has provided a clearing letter stating that all municipal requirements have been addressed. And then the county has some conditions too, and we have 5 of them. They are that the confirmation be received from a solicitor, that the certificate of the official be scanned and attached to the electronic registration. The second one is that the Land Division Committee be provided with a description that is consistent with the application and equal to that required for registration of the deed/transfer. The third one is confirmation that the property owner has entered into an agreement with the County of Perth to prohibit any new permanent residential dwellings on the retained farm lot. The next one is that undertaking be received from a solicitor stating that the retained farm parcel will be sold to Sunshade Farms Limited as the existing farm dwelling is surplus to their needs. And the last one, the severed parcel be reduced in size based on the recommended modifications produced by the modified staff sketch from approximately 1.39 hectares to approximately 1.16 hectares, and this condition be satisfied through an amended severed sketch produced by a professional Ontario land surveyor. Okay, you want to say something? Go ahead.
Yeah, if I might, Mayor, if Matthew, can you just highlight condition 6? That was it was the revised condition that came out of the report, or that was the revision that was made. The demolition of the existing barn and silo. I just want to confirm with the applicants that that's the intent, is that those 2 are going to be demolished from the property. And then I think the last condition that Mayor Eggett's read was the one about reduction as it related to the size. So I think those are the 2 keys as it relates to the conditions. 6 was a revision that was made, that was circulated to council, and 12 is the one that's focused on the size of the severance.
But 12 is the line on the diagonal, is it not?
Correct.
Just so that we're all on the same page. And I guess the other question, we're doing this backwards anyway. It says that they can't add any buildings. What does that do for the garden suite or the granny flat that they want to put on there? That is still allowed?
Yes, I believe that the wording is that it's no new structures on the retained land, which is the farm, not the residential lot.
Oh, okay. All right.
The severed is the house.
House,
Yeah.
right.
So the retained is the farm.
Farmland, okay, good.
Buildings on
Okay, so that, do we have a mover and a seconder for all that? Do I have a mover and a seconder? I'll ask 3 times. Jerry?
I'd move all the conditions and remove number 12. That seems to be,
Okay. Yeah, that's
I'll
fine.
move the total, all the recommendations with the exception of number 12.
You move the 11 recommendations.
Yes.
Okay. Do I have a seconder? Amanda? So moved by Jerry, second by Amanda, that we do the first, the 11 recommendations. Okay, any more comments or questions? Bob?
So just a matter of process, since we're making a decision to move this to Land Division, how will Land Division process this report, given that I don't see it following typically what would be considered a minimal lot area? Is it their job to then take the planning staff's opinion or the council opinion, or to come up with something themselves?
Well, Hugh sits in that committee, we'll let him respond.
We'll decide ourselves. So we'll either, there's 3 options. Either go with the report, go with the other people that want something, or we come up with a 3rd option.
Go ahead.
Okay, so given that everyone's in the room and Mr. McNeil has suggested that there could be some movement of the southern boundary, is that something that Perth East should consider tonight as we provide this to Land Division?
We can, that's up to council whether they wish to put that forward or not. Amanda?
Just a question, would an updated sketch be required before it went to land, like the next step? Like if we were to make those changes?
Then, yeah, then the updated map would go to the Land Division Committee, because that's the recommendation of council.
And doesn't that committee typically go with the recommendation of the lower tier anyways?
Not always.
Not always, no.
Not always. We make our own decision.
But like typically though, in the last little while, they typically do. There's been outliers, but like.
Yeah, sometimes it just depends on the circumstances of the application or what's in the application. Like, and this one's a good example. We have the tree line, right?
Right.
So typically, I would think the Land Division would keep that because they want to keep the trees. Are we going to gain a lot of farmland? As Bob pointed out, we're going to have an awkward turn for that cultivator, and believe me, I know that because I drive a cultivator. So, you know, yeah. So sometimes there's circumstances that will make the lots bigger than you wish for them to be, but they take it into consideration, but they still make up their own. They take into consideration what council said, but they still make up their own mind in the end. Okay, so we do have these 11 conditions. It was moved by Jerry and second by Amanda. Is there anything, Bob?
I believe it would be in our best interest from Perth East Council standpoint to provide some direction, whether they take it or not at Land Division. So assuming that the applicants and Mr. McNeil are on the same page, I would prefer that we added another condition that planning staff and the applicants reduce the footprint on the southern edge.
Okay, so you want to make that amendment?
Well, if you can put that into words.
You want to amend it, or does Jerry, does the mover and the seconder agree?
Well, first, I think you maybe should clarify, since everyone's in the room, if they would be agreeable to such action.
Okay, Trevor?
Yeah, we would be, just to mention all my many years of dealing with Perth East, Perth South, West Perth, and Land Division. I know for sure discussion will happen again at Land Division, as Councilor McDermott full well knows, and they'll be looking, so we've already actually prepared a sketch with that 6 meters taking off, knowing that even if it got approved without that here, that discussion is going to happen again at land division. I'm 100% sure of it. And we'd be looking to provide him that sketch at that time, if not required here, to try to accommodate land division's concerns as well.
Okay, Jerry?
So as a mover, I'd be willing to add that as condition 12. Remove the 6 meters from the southerly portion.
Okay, and as a seconder, you will, Amanda will, yes, okay. All right, so now we do have 12 conditions. Okay, any more questions or comments? All in favor? Carried.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yep, thank you. Thanks, Josh. Hawa? Okay, now we're going to CAO. We have no report. We'll go to clerk, development agreement with Southside Estates. Ashley?
Okay, thanks, Mayor Agates. So outlined in the report, this is a condition of a severance that council has seen, and it piggybacks off of 2 other severance applications that council had seen in the spring, and a previous development agreement as well. I can answer any questions if there's any questions.
Any questions of the report? If not, we have a motion that Council of the Township of Perth East receive the report entitled Development Agreement, Southside Estates, Inc., CLE-2024-19, dated October 16, 2024, prepared by the Manager of Legislative Services / Municipal Clerk for information, and that Council proceed with the adoption of Bylaw 57-2024, authorizing the Mayor and the Clerk to sign a development agreement with Southside Estates. Moved by Hugh, second by Jerry. All in favor? Carried. Okay, thanks, Ashley. Now we'll move to finance, and we have an IT acceptable use policy and password policy, and we have Matthew with us tonight to give that. The floor is yours.
Gotta love technology. So before council is just an update to our IT policies. They were last updated in 2014, so about 10 years. And in IT, 10 years is just an unbelievable amount of time. It'd be like us trying to update some manuals from 1970, like finance or building. So what we did was we went out and looked at some industry standards and built off of those. And in doing that, we also looked at consolidating all the policies into one policy to have one source of truth for all IT stuff. The password policy is separate, as I do see some changes eventually coming. We're kind of in a weird pattern with passwords right now. There's 2 prevailing thoughts on them, have them changed every 90 days. Another one's where it's nice and really long words and you only change them if need be. And we're starting to see more biometrics. So I definitely see that one probably coming to council sooner than the other one. So that's why it's been separate. I am here to answer any questions about either of the policies.
Okay, thanks, Matthew. Any questions of the report? Oh, Andrew?
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mayor Agates. So I got a few questions. I've been through a lot of these over the years of working in industry where a USB drive can knock stuff down, so I appreciate we have to be safe, right? So I'm just wondering on number 1.3, internet usage, the second point, I know it's obvious. I'm just wondering if it needs to be in a policy. All information found on the internet should be considered suspect until confirmed by another reliable resource. It doesn't seem like it's a policy statement. It's just kind of a statement of fact. I'm wondering why, what was the intent of IT in putting that in there?
We built it off the SAN standards and that was included in there.
Okay, can we, it just seems out of place.
It's up to council if they want to remove it, but with information online, it's always fake news and it's getting more prevalent with AI media out there. So I think it's probably worthwhile keeping that. You need to be looking at anything with a critical eye.
Okay, I'll go on to the next one. Sorry, I'm not picking on you. I just have a few questions. I can get this thing to work. So on, I didn't do the page number here. It says deliberately pointing or hyperlinking links of the township websites or other internet sites. So is that going onto a township server or coming off? Like if you were to share like social media or something, can you explain that one? It says other activities are strictly prohibited include, and then it's bullet point number 3. Sorry, I didn't mark down the page number on that one.
PE 124.
Yeah, I just wonder if I got some clarification on that.
That's just to keep people from, like staff members from putting us onto like a Ku Klux Klan website, for example, just pulling something random out.
Oh, okay.
Try to disparage the township.
That's not good for sure. So social media is part of that or is not part of that, or like a community Facebook pages, all that stuff, you know, that doesn't mean you can't post.
Oh, no, it doesn't mean you can't post at all. It's just
Okay,
to make sure that you're not doing something to deliberately disparage the township.
Oh, okay, thank you. Website monitoring. So the township wants to collect the IP addresses, or it probably does already, which most institutions probably do. So what information is with that, and is it, how long? It's held for 30 days, and how is it used in that time? Is it secured away, or?
That data is collected by the firewalls. That's pretty standard on any device nowadays. You can almost consider it passive surveillance, if you want to use the word surveillance. It is stored in a SIEM solution as well as on the device itself. We've never had to use it, but if we ever had, say, an infection on a computer, it would help us to determine where it came from and the attack vector that the ransomware took throughout the system.
So it's a troubleshooting tool if there was an incident?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Perfect.
It's not actively monitoring people to say, you know, you shouldn't be on Facebook, you're on there for 22 minutes.
Yeah, no.
Nothing like that. No.
No, thanks, I appreciate that clarification. There's another one here. Township record. I didn't put a note down for this last one. I'll just let it go. No, thanks very much. Just wanted to clarify that stuff.
Okay, Hugh?
Being as the mayor is the only one that has a township phone, so if any one of us get things on our phone and we say send an email back to somebody else on council or anything like that, is that tracked or whatever?
So your phone itself isn't tracked, but the email as it goes through our system would be tracked, just like it would be on an internal thing. But no, your personal devices aren't tracked on the system. For clarification, the logs probably contain the IP address that your phone has, but that would be about it.
Oh, okay. And just one other question then. If we do receive information on our personal phones, are they subject to freedom of information?
That, and yes, they are. Yeah. Actually, yeah, clarified, yeah.
No more coming to my phone.
Yeah.
Okay, Andrew?
Thank you, Mary. Sorry, I figured out what I was going to ask. So point 3 on item 1.4, email, I chopped the top. I think it's email and communication activities. Point 3, email should be retained only if it qualifies as township business record. And then the rest of it is email to township business record if there exists a legitimate ongoing. So this is basically probably between staff and contractors or governmental agencies. And so we're not keeping those on our server as a record, or we are keeping them, but for a limited time. I'm just wondering if you could clarify that, please.
The idea behind that was just for freedom of information and our retention policies. So when you're going through your email, just to save what you have to save and then discard the other emails as we no longer need them in retention.
Okay. And
it is a habit, and I'm just as guilty of keeping every email I've ever gotten, so.
So it will be saved somewhere, just not on the device?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Okay, Hugh?
So on your personal phone, the only thing somebody could get a freedom of information request would be on the township part of that phone that you're using to send or receive emails? Or could they go on your entire phone?
That I'd have to ask Ashley. My understanding, though, is if it's town related, it's freedom of information, but
Yes, so anything that's through the township accounts would be for sure, and it's a gray area. If you look at the Information Privacy Commissioner and through MFIPA, depending on the topic, there has been other cases, other townships and cities where council members or staff have used their personal devices to speak about township business, and the IPC has called that becomes part of the record in whatever the investigation is. So it's a gray area there, but anything for sure that's through the township email address would be.
But those other people, they were doing township business. Right, they were for whatever. Okay, so, no, I can understand that, it's just how far can somebody go with those kind of requests? Because again, if we do anything except for the mayor, we have to use personal phones. So I just wonder how far they can dig into your phone.
Yeah, it would only be if it was township business related. They wouldn't be able to, we wouldn't be able to ask for access to all of your photos or things like that. It would only be something specific to the township topic, whatever the Freedom of Information request is that we've received, but it would just be specific to that. Does that answer your question?
Just one other thing. So I use my computer at county and I use it at Upper Tham. So that's all within, because it's a council thing, that's all okay then.
Yeah, because so you've been appointed by bylaw and by resolution. So by bylaw for county council and by resolution for Upper Thames. So you're there acting on behalf of the township. So yeah, that would be okay.
Okay. And then there'd be a way then that for passwords and all that kind of stuff would have to be the whatever standard we have here, right?
So passwords, yeah, if it's one of our devices, it should follow our password policy.
Okay, fine, thank you.
Okay, Amanda?
I don't have any questions per se, but just 2 comments on the freedom of information piece. My understanding from reading is that when a freedom of information request comes through, the requester has to scope it. And so they may say all emails and text messages pertaining to XYZ or all documentation related to XYZ, and there is a cost for the requester to access that information based on the documents. And so with that, I know that separate but related to this, I think there was a motion about looking at council honorariums at the day and half day. We maybe should be looking into like phones, because the reality is that the way it is now is that our personal phones, like I get text messages and calls like from ratepayers on my personal, just like, and if they don't email me, I get it to my personal like everybody else. And so it is something that should be looked at, because it is very much, while it is a gray area, it really isn't, because there has been rulings on it already and precedents. So I think we should be a little bit more, like as counselors, as elected officials, like it is, you know, like in my other line of work, like it is very separate. And so like it is something that we maybe need to be looking into given the dynamic. So those are just my comments. There's suggestions that we should maybe be looking into.
Okay, anyone else? If not, we do have a motion that Council of the Township of Perth East receive the report prepared by the IT Systems Administrator and Manager of Financial Services / Treasurer dated October 16, 2024, entitled IT Acceptable Use Policy and Password Policy for Information, and further that Council endorses the proposed updates and directs staff to implement the proposed policies, and those are CA-1.33 password policy, policy, and CA-1.34 IT acceptable use policy, and then repeal the following policies: CA-1.02.02 tech website privacy policy, CA-1.02.01, A-214, that's technology policy, CA-1.12, and that's a human resources manual policy, section 2.3, information technology IT acceptable use, 2-13.1 IT acceptable use agreement form, 2-14 social media, 2-14.1 social media agreement form, 2-16 electronic workplace monitoring, 2-16.1 electronic workplace monitoring signatory page, and 6-4.2 IT orientation checklist. We have a mover and a seconder, moved by Hugh, second by Jeremy. All in favor? Carried. Okay, we have, thanks Matthew. We have no reports from Public Works, no reports from Building Bylaw Enforcement, no reports from Parks, Recreation and Community Services, no reports from Fire. So that puts us to correspondence. The first item under correspondence is from Jeremy. He's the president of the Milverton Business Association, and this is for their Merry Milverton Christmas event on November the 15th. They want the temporary road closure. Okay, so let me read it and then you can move it. So the Council of the Township of Perth East received a correspondence from Jeremy Matheson, President, Milverton Business Association, dated September 27, 2024, regarding the Merry Milverton Christmas event on November 15, 2024, temporary road closure request for information, and that Council approved the temporary closure of Main Street, Milverton, from George Street through downtown to Gross Street for the evening, started at 4 p.m. and reopening at approximately 9 p.m. in order to accommodate the Merry Milverton Christmas event, and that the event organizers provide sufficient volunteers necessary to control detoured/rerouted traffic, and further that the certificate of insurance state that the Corporation of the Township of Perth East and the County of Perth be added as an additional insured, but only with respects to their interest in the operation of the named insured. Moved by Hugh, second by Jerry. All in favor? Carried. Okay, and the next item is for the Mornington Lions Club Christmas Parade of Lights on December the 13th. So we have a motion that Council of the Township of Perth East receive the correspondence from the Optimist Club of Mornington and the Lions Club of Milverton received October 1st, 2024, regarding a request for a temporary road closure December 13, 2024 for the 2024 Parade of Lights for information, that Council approve the route for the Parade of Lights starting on Industrial Drive, west on Sipple Street, south on William Street, east on George Street, south on Main Street, and dispersing on Wilford Street in the Milverton Ward on Friday, December 13, 2024 from 7 p.m. until 9 p.m., storm date of Saturday, December 14, 2024, in order to accommodate a parade sponsored by the Optimist Club of Mornington and the Lions Club of Milverton, and that the event organizer provides sufficient volunteers necessary to control detoured/rerouted traffic, and that the certificate of insurance state that the Corporation of the Township of Perth East and the County of Perth be added as additional insured, but only with respect to their interest in the operation of the named insured. Do we have a mover and a seconder? Moved by Hugh, second by Andrew. Questions? All in favor? Carried. And the third item we have is from Rob Flack, the Minister of Agriculture and Food, and it's regarding International Agri-Food Workers Welcoming Communities Initiative grant intake. Is there any questions on what that is or anything about that? Andrew?
Sure, any information that's, it'd be, anybody knows what's going on with that one,
Through you, Mayor, I think it's outside of the letter, I don't have a lot more to offer, to be honest. I think we chose to include it as part of the package to try and create some awareness about it within the sector itself. I anticipate that the associations are also aware of it and are maybe looking at avenues to tap into it. That's my assumption. Counselor, but I don't have a lot more than that to offer.
Thank you.
Amanda?
The way that I sort of look at it, I think it sort of targets certain geographic areas more than others that have more temporary foreign workers. So like you look at like Norfolk area where there's a lot of fruit and vegetable growers, the Holland Marsh, like greenhouse, like country in Leamington. Like I think that's more where this is coming from. That's how I interpret it, because I think it's just related to those temporary foreign workers. If that helps, that's how I interpret the letter anyhow.
Okay, then we have a motion that Council of the Township of Perth East receive the correspondence from Rob Flack, Minister of Agriculture, dated September 27, 2024, regarding the International Agri-Food Workers, IAW, Welcoming Communities Initiative Grant Intake for Information. Moved by Hugh, second by Bob, all in favor? Carried. Okay, we're going to move to council reports. There's no mayor's meeting log. It was here the last meeting. Council reports. Does anybody have any of the committees or the boards they sit on to give a report for any of them? No? Okay. Then we move to bylaws. We have two bylaws that have first, second, third, and final reading to them. And then we have bylaw 57-2024, a bylaw to authorize the signing of a development agreement with Southside Estates, Inc. And that was item 8.3.1 on our agenda tonight. And the second one is bylaw 58-2024, being a bylaw to appoint a deputy clerk for the Township of Perth East. I need a mover and a seconder for that. Moved by Amanda, second by Jerry. All in favor? Carried. Okay, is there any announcements? Oh, I'm sorry, I'm jumping down. Notice of motions? Other business? Announcements? There's no need for a closed session. We have confirmation bylaw, and that is that bylaw 59-2024, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of Council of the Township of Perth East at its regular meeting held on October 16, 2024, be read a first, second, and third time. Moved by Hugh, second by Amanda. All in favor? Carried. And the last motion of the night is that the meeting be adjourned at 8:04 p.m. Moved by... Who wants to go home? Jerry, second by Amanda. All in favor? Carried. Thanks, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your evening.